Here's lesson 3 about midpoints. So it says segments, midpoints, and bisectors. The main topic is midpoints. We'll see it in 1 dimension and 2 dimension on the number line and in the coordinate plane. Some algebra problems along with it. Remember, if it goes too fast, you can pause. I may even tell you when to pause this video and try some of the practice problems from your practice class worksheet. Break it up a little bit. So a midpoint, a point on a segment equidistant, the same distance from the endpoints. We have our picture here. M is the midpoint of PQ here, and these are the same distance from M to P as it is from M to Q, and we write these little congruent marks here on it to remind ourselves that those two segments, those two pieces of the whole segment are the same. Here we got a point as a midpoint of a segment if the distances from this point to each endpoint are equal. So sometimes they ask if it's a midpoint, then these two pieces have to be equal if this is a midpoint. Take a look at our first formula here. In 1 dimension on the number line, the midpoint looks like this. M, the midpoint, will equal what we're going to add up those two coordinates for the endpoint and divide by 2. Okay, so let's see it. Here we have example 1. Find the coordinate of the midpoint of FG. So we're going to find those coordinates of the endpoint. It doesn't matter which way you put them, or which order. You can put the F first and the G next. But F is -3 plus the other end coordinate of the other endpoint G, which is 3. And then we're going to divide by 2. So by hand, yeah, -3 plus 3, I'm going to show you your calculator in a minute, is 0, and 0 divided by 2 is 0. 0 is the midpoint of these two. Now let's take a look at the calculator. Oops. Of course, to get that fraction, this calculator works great for that. I'm going to go to that menu that's right next to the 9 here. It's got all kinds of special things. We saw how it had absolute value. It's got square root. It's got powers. Now here's the fraction right here. So I click on that. Now I have my fraction. And I forget what we had. What do we have? We have -3 plus 3 on top. So -3 plus 3 on top, and then you can just go down and get on the bottom, and we divided by 2. So this calculator works great. There it is on your calculator. Okay, so practice using it. It'll help you a bunch. Just make sure you look and see what's on the screen, and is that what I wanted? Yeah. Okay, sometimes you hit the wrong key or don't go to the bottom or something top. So just take a look at what it looks like after you're done putting it in. Alright, you got the quick check there. You can try that. You can pause the video and check it in a minute. So they want what? The midpoint of JK. So J was -1 plus K is 4. You can do that all at once on your calculator if you want and get the answer, which is 1.5. You know, those would add up to 3. 3 divided by 2 is 1.5, or the fraction. Let's take a look at that, and I want to show you something on the calculator in case you want the decimal, if it's a decimal answer. Sometimes it gives you the fraction usually. So let's see, we've got -1 plus 4. So I go back, get my fraction. I had -1 plus 4, and then 2 on the bottom, divide by 2 to get that midpoint. So here it is as a fraction. If you want it as a decimal, you know, we're going to go to the menu. Menu has lots of good stuff in it. And this is about a number now, not algebra. So we'll go to number, and you can see it comes up with this menu, convert to a decimal. So you just put that in there and it shows answer decimal, hit enter. And there's how I got the 1.5. Now you can pause this video and work on some practice problems from the practice that are just like this. On the practice worksheet, you can do problems 1 through 4 right now and then come back to the video and see the next part. Okay? It's up to you. You can go through all the notes if you want. So let's go back to my notes now. Now, this problem isn't on your practice, but it's a good one. It'll show us how to do some other things later, get the concept down for a little bit tougher problem. In this problem, if the coordinate of the midpoint of segment AB on the number line is 3. So 3 here is the midpoint. I'm going to put an M there. Alright. Here's M for midpoint. Not a very good M. And A is at -2. So over here at -2 is one of my endpoints, A. They want to find B. So if A is here and we go over to the midpoint here, the other endpoint is over here somewhere. So we're going to use the same formula, but in a little different way. This time we've got the M and we're missing the B, the other endpoint. So it looks like this. In place of M, I put the coordinate of the midpoint, 3. And you'll see why I put these parentheses in just a second. One of the endpoints goes up here with A and B, -2. Plus the other one we don't know, so I left it as B and divided by 2. So to get rid of this division by 2, you multiply both sides by 2. This will just cancel out on this side, so whatever I do to this side, I have to do that. And that's why I had that parentheses around there at the beginning. So over here, it just cancels out on this side. 2 times 3 is 6. We're just left with the top, which is -2 plus B. So we're going to get rid of this -2 with +2 and get B by itself. -2 plus 2 cancels out. That's a 0 pair. And we get 8 equals B. Of course, you could put this all in the calculator and let it solve for B. You can go back to the Inspire videos I'm going to make and see how to solve an equation if you forgot. If you do remember, don't forget the comma and the very letter name you're using in there. So you can try the quick check now. I can pause this video and see if you can do it all by yourself. But we've got the same thing here, the midpoint. I called them C and D like the problem did. The two endpoints are C and D. We read this. If the coordinate of the midpoint of CD on the number line is 1. So I know my midpoint is 1. And C is -3. So I'll put -3 in there for C. The two endpoints divided by 2 here. So we'll solve that. We'll multiply both sides by 2 to get rid of that division by 2 on this side. And we get 2 equals the top part, because the bottom's gone, -3 plus D. Cancel out that -3 with addition, and we end up with D. The other endpoint is 5. Sometimes I go ahead and check and add up these two endpoints. -3 plus 5 is 2, divided by 2 is 1. Yeah, I got my midpoint. Now there are no problems like that on your practice, so we'll go right into this formula, the midpoint formula on two-dimensional coordinate system. In the plane, here's a nice ugly picture for you, but if we've got two points in the plane and we want to find their midpoint, this is the formula for it. Now, of course, the points have an x and y coordinate, so does the midpoint. And this shows you to find the x coordinate of the midpoint, I'm going to add up the x's from the endpoint and divide by 2. To find the y coordinate, I'll add up the y coordinates of the two endpoints and divide by 2. Let's see how it's done with a problem. So here's our formula. Oops, I got the answer kind of hidden here. I even graphed them on here and saw that the midpoint was somewhere in here. Here's -9, 3. Over here, 8, -7, 8 is the x-coordinate, so I go +8 direction to the right and then down 7. So with our formula, you know, it is good with these x1, y1, x2, y2 to label your points. So I've labeled them there, the first point with the 1s, the second point with the 2s, of course x coordinate, and then y, x, and then y. So we substitute in this formula. It says x1, which is -9, plus the x2, the x in the other one is 8, and then you're going to divide by 2. Then the y's, I'll set up the y's. y1 was 3, the y2 was -7, and we'll divide by 2. And if you do that with your calculator, you get -1/2 and -2 for y. You could also put -0.5 for the -1/2, either way. So there's our answer. The midpoint is -1/2 and -2. So you can pause your video before the quick check and then check it afterwards, see if you got it right. I'll do it now. Let's see. So did I label them? No, I did not label them. So you label them. But I can see here x1 is 3. The other x is 7. So we add them up and divide by 2. Not like the other formula where I'm finding distance subtracting. This is adding and dividing by 2. The y's are -6 and 2. And when we add up these, 10 divided by 2 is 5. And -6 plus 2 divided by 2 is -2. So the midpoint is 5, -2. Now you could go over to the practice. You could pause this video and do some of the practice problems like that, which are 5 and 6. Those two problems. The next set are a little different. They're going to give you an endpoint in the middle. But right now you could do 5 and 6 if you wanted to pause the video. I'll go back to the video now and take a look at this next set of problems. We're still in the coordinate plane, but if we read example 4, it says M is the midpoint of AB. With A at 0, 1 and M, the midpoint is at 3, 5. So we're going to do this a little different. We're still going to use this basic same formula that says the midpoint, we get it by adding up the two endpoints and dividing by 2, just like we did on the number line a minute, but we got to do it twice. So I'm going to do it once for the x coordinate and once for the y coordinate. So I look at this, let's see. The xm stands for the x coordinate in the midpoint. How do we get it? We add up the two x's for the endpoints and divide by 2. So if we substitute our stuff into this, let's see, the x coordinate of the midpoint is 3. Here's m, the midpoint. It's the first number. X coordinate is 3. And then we look, we've only got one of the endpoints. It doesn't matter which one you put it in, x1 or x2. I think I put it in x1. So the x coordinate of this endpoint is 0. There's the x. And then we don't know the other one. That's what we're solving for. So remember, you could use your calculator or do the steps on paper, but I've got to see the equation first. So what are we going to do? We're going to multiply both sides by 2 to cancel out this division and just get the top over here. On the other side, we've got 6. And of course, 0 plus anything doesn't change it. 0 plus x is just x. So the x coordinate of this midpoint we just found is 6. Now we'll do the same type of thing for the y's. So in our formula, we got the y coordinate of the midpoint. We look over here, the midpoint's m, the y coordinate is 5. Oops, I didn't do substitute that time, so I put it like this. And then on top, what do we have? The y coordinate of one of the endpoints here, a, is 1. So on top, we'll have 1 plus y2 divided by 2. Still our same step here first. We're going to get rid of the division by 2 by multiplying by 2. So we get 10 equals just the top over here. The bottom gets canceled out. 1 plus the y coordinate. So we'll get rid of this 1 by subtracting it away. And we get the y coordinate of that other endpoint is 9. And there it is. Given an endpoint and a middle, how do we set it up? Just like this. So you can try that quick check. Maybe pause it and see if you get it right on your own, and then check your answer. And I'll go ahead and do it now. Let's see. So let's see what we got here. I got my formula set up. I got the midpoint, the x coordinate. I'm doing the x's over here. The x coordinate of the midpoint is -1. And then one of the endpoints, the x is 3. So we got 3 plus the x divided by 2. Yes, we're going to go ahead and multiply both sides by 2. It doesn't matter which side you put it on. I put it over here. It's still going to cancel out over here. That will cancel out our bottom. And what do we get? -2 equals 3 plus x2. Subtract that 3 away, and we get the x coordinate is -5. Set up the y's. The y for the middle is right here, 4. Equals that one that one endpoint, the -2 for y, plus the other y we don't know, divided by 2. Go ahead and multiply both sides by 2. And we get 8 equals just the top, because the bottom cancels out. We'll get rid of that -2 with +2, and we get the y coordinate is 10. So there you have it. Now, if you want to pause the video and practice some of these problems, they are problems 7, 8, 9, and 10. You can read, given the coordinates of the endpoint of AB and its midpoint M, find the coordinate of the other endpoint. So we got M as the mid, and one of the endpoints is this A here. Okay? So you can try those if you want. I'm going to go back to the video, but you can pause it and try those on your practice. Now we get to a new term, segment bisector. Bisect, bi means two, sect means, basically cut it into two pieces, but they're equal pieces. Okay? So to bisect something means to cut it into two equal pieces, a segment. So it could be a plane, a ray, a line, or a line segment that bisects another segment, or even a point that intersects a segment at its midpoint. So here, I've got this picture. Here's how it's read. Ray BD. This ray is bisecting, cutting in half AC, where? At point B. So B is that midpoint. I go ahead and mark the congruent marks to remind myself these pieces are equal. Let's see a couple of problems here. We start off with a nice example 5 in Algebra 1. But this one doesn't talk about a bisector first. We're going to see if it bisects or not. But we start off with B is between A and C. So here's B. It's between points A and C. Then I got the length of AB is 2y plus 6. So AB is that piece, 2y plus 6. BC, the other piece, is y plus 8. And AC, the whole thing, is 20. So remember, we set up this, the piece plus the piece equals the whole thing. And we'll go ahead and solve that now. We'll combine the y's and get 3 y's. The 6 and the 8 make 14. So we'll get rid of this 14, this plus 14 with minus 14, get that y term by itself. Got 3y equals 6. Now we'll divide by 3 and get our y equals 2. Now it says, is B a bisector of AC? Explain. So if it bisects, we know these pieces have to be equal. So if we substitute the 2 in for y here, we'll have 2 times 2 plus 6. I didn't write it out, but again, 2y means 2 times whatever a y is, and we just solve for y. It's 2. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 6 is 10. So this piece would be 10. And on this other one, we'd have 2 plus 8. The y is 2. This is 10. So they're equal. So yes, B is a bisector. Does cut it in half. Because the length of AB equals the length of BC. Now we go into a picture where they do tell us it is a bisector. Let's see what we got. I'm going to use this for 6 and 7, a lot of problems actually. In which segment WY, this one, bisects, cuts UV in half where at the point Y. So I can mark my picture. I know these pieces are equal here. So then what do they give us? UY equals 5. So this piece equals 5. Then find YV and UV. Well, YV, what? Since it's bisected here, it's going to be the same as UY. 5. And then of course we can add up these pieces and get the whole thing for UV. UV would be 10. Okay, let's take a look at another one. You can try, oops, I've already got this marked out here, not very good writing, but I'll read it to you here. What do we got? Same picture. This is cutting it, bisecting it, so these pieces are equal. They tell us UY equals 13.5. So the other piece, YV, is 13.5. And if we add them together, we get 27 for the whole thing. They wanted YV, which is 13.5. Some more good writing. I don't know what I'm doing here. Oh, some more bad writing here. But same type of easy problem. We still got our bisector. The pieces are equal. They tell us the whole thing from U to V equals 18. They even tell us U to Y is 9. So the other piece is also 9YV. Let me know if you have any questions. So the answer to this, YV, was 9. One more here. In this picture, still have our pieces equal. We still have our segment bisector for these problems. And they give us from U to V equals 24. So we know these pieces are cut equally into 2. We just divide it by 2, and we get 12 for each piece. I don't know what happened there. Why is that thing sticking there? We'll see in a minute. I might have to put it back. Let's see. We got some more crummy handwriting here, but we'll use it this time. We still have our same picture where WY is bisecting UV. These pieces are equal. Now they give us an algebraic expression for UY. I've got it written in here, 3x minus 3. And YV equals, is x, so this piece is x. They don't give us the whole thing, but we can write an equation because we know this piece equals this piece, or 4x minus 3 equals x, the other piece. So we solve for x. I am going to go ahead and do it like some students do. I'm going to subtract this x and show you what happens here. I could have subtracted the 4x, but I don't like x's on both sides. We got to have them on one side. So what happens when you get rid of this x is this side is 0. Sometimes students forget about that and end up putting the equal sign in between these two things, the 3x and minus 3, and get the answer wrong. But this side is 0, so now I'll get rid of the plus 3 over here. Get the x term by itself by adding 3. Get rid of the minus 3 with plus 3. We get 3x equals 3, then we divide by 3 and get x equals 1. So now we can figure out how big uy is. Uy is 4 times whatever x is minus 3, and x is 1. So 4 times 1 is 4, minus 3 is 1. Uy is 1. Now, I think I might have messed this up before. Uv is the whole distance. So I know this piece is 1, the other one's the same, and 1 plus 1 is 2. I think I had messed it up earlier. So this should be a 2. If you have any questions, let me know. So we look at the same picture. We've got a little something different happening in this one, so let's take a look. Again, pause whenever you need to. I go a little fast sometimes because the video gets a little too long. What do we have here now? From U to Y is 5x minus 9. So that's this piece. And then they give us from y to v is 2x plus 12. So we still have the same thing going on here. They give us the two pieces, and we know they are equal because this is bisecting, so that is our equation. I'm going to get rid of those two x's first. Get the x's on the other side only. So we have 3x minus 9 equals the 12 here because the x's are gone. We'll add 9 to both sides. To get rid of this minus 9 here, we'll add 9 and get 3x equals 21. Divide by 3, and we get x equals 7. So we go back to our question here. From u to y was 5x minus 9. So we substitute the 7 in for x. So take 5 times 7 minus 9, which is 26. And then from u to v is that whole distance. So that whole distance is 2 times whatever this is, or adding them up. You know, they're both 26, or 2 times 26, which is 52. Here, let's take a look at what we got here. Same picture, we got these pieces equal because of our bisector. UV, which is the whole distance, is x plus 6. So I put it on top, the whole one. And uy is x minus 1. Now, we don't set these are equal. This piece is not equal to this whole thing. So we need to know this other piece. So we can say piece plus piece equals the whole thing. Well, these pieces are equal. So since this one's x minus 1, we can say this one is also x minus 1. Now we got these two added up to equal the whole thing. And that's what our equation looks like. So there's two types of equation you can get from these problems. When they give us just the two pieces, we can say they're equal. But when they give us one of the pieces and the whole thing, we got to copy the other piece here, and then we can add up the two pieces which are the same, equaling the whole thing. So we'll combine like terms over here. The x plus the x is 2x, and the minus 1 and the minus 1 make minus 2. In your calculator, you put it in as negative 1 minus 1, which is negative 2. We'll get rid of this x on this side. I subtract it away to get rid of the x's here, and I get 6 equals 2x minus 1x is just 1x or x. And last step, get rid of that minus 2 with plus 2 to get x by itself, and we get x equals 8. And we go back to the question. They want yv, which again was the same as uy, x minus 1. So we take our x number, 8, and subtract 1, and we get 7. What do we have left here? It's been a long one. One more like that, a quick check. So from u to v is 6x minus 10, the whole distance. One of the pieces, uy, is x plus 3. Again, you can't, the picture helps. This little piece does not equal the whole thing. So what do? We copy it over here. And now we can say the piece plus a piece equals the whole thing. The equation looks like that. So we'll combine like terms on this side. We get the x and the x make 2x. The plus 3 and the plus 3 make plus 6. X is on both sides, so we'll cancel out these two x's over here. You could have subtracted 6x. Like, either way is fine. And we end up with 6 equals 6 minus 2x is 4x, and then the minus 10 there. Now we'll isolate this 4x term by getting rid of the minus 10 with plus 10. We get 16 equals 4x. Divide by 4, and we get x equals 4. yv, which is the little piece, again, was the same as the other one, x plus 3. So we take our x number 4 and add 3 to it and get 7. Is there anything else? No, that is it. So you can go ahead and finish up the practice problems and turn those in. Let me know if you need any help.